Salus.
Always come on time.
It's because you got the coolest sweater in the room. It set the tone. I like it. You let me use it in July, right?
No, do not fit you.
I might. I got nothing wrong with a tight sweater. 1 minute, 1 minute. So it caught me talking about Nabil's sweater? Then let me correct the record. It's really nice. That better? And we're all forgiven? Good. Okay. You let me know. It's less than a minute when I can.
I'll donate the sweater to the city of
I like it. In the archives, circa 1993. You let me know when you're ready. I know, I'd wear it. I'd make it into a sweater vest, actually.
It was fashionable 20 years ago. That's an indication of my age, I guess.
You let me know when. Good evening. It's Thursday, March 5th, 2026 at 6 p.m. This is the City of Franklin Plan Commission. Madam X, would you please take the roll? Oh, Luke.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm doing the book. Mayor Nelson,
here.
Commissioner Specht, Commissioner Shago, Commissioner Haley, Alderman Salus,
Here.
Alderwoman Day is excused, and Commissioner Leon is currently absent.
Thank you. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item B, approval of the meeting minutes, approval of the regular meeting of February 19th, 2026. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Second. First and a second, any further discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Going to C, public hearing, business matters. I will read it, Marion, before I turn it over. PTP Spanco conditional use request for approval of a conditional use for a light industry use to manufacture cranes, fall protection, and material handling equipment for a property located at 9800 South 60th Street. Tax key number 899-9990-022. Ms. X.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated in the agenda, this item is a request for conditional use approval for a property located on the corner of Airway and 60th. The zoning here is limited industrial. It is not part of the business park in the sense that it's not part of either of the PDLs related to the business park. Limited industrial does require conditional use approval of uses in general, and specifically this manufacturing use. So Rose conducted a site inspection. She is the planner that reviewed this, and the finding was that it's in compliance with all of the standards and there's no site issues. They're not proposing any changes to the lot apart from signage. Staff is recommending approval.
So just to repeat that last part, staff is recommending approval. Okay. So we will then move forward to the public hearing. If you want to please read that.
Notice of public hearing for the City of Franklin Plan Commission on Thursday, March 5th, 2026 at 6:00 p.m. here in the Common Council Chambers at Franklin City Hall, 9229 West Loomis Road, Franklin, Wisconsin, 53132. The applicant is PTP Spanco Midwest, Inc. The property is 9800 South 60th Street. The proposal is a conditional use permit to allow a light industrial use manufacture of cranes, fall protection, and material handling equipment in the LI Limited Industrial District. Light industrial uses require a conditional use permit in LI. This public hearing is being held pursuant to the requirements of Wisconsin Statute 6223-7D2 and 15-906E of the Unified Development Ordinance. A map of the affected property, all application materials, and the proposed draft ordinance are available at the Department of City Development at Franklin City Hall. The public is invited to attend the public hearing and to provide input.
Thank you. Is the owner's rep here today? Okay. So how this will work is I'll open up the floor for a public hearing. People will be able to speak on this and this alone. If there are any questions, we just please take note of them, and we'll address them after. And then any questions from up here will follow that. Okay? So at this time, we'll open a public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak on this matter and this matter alone at 6:03 PM. If you are interested, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and we'll go from there.
None.
Good observation. Seeing no one, we're going to close at 6:04 PM, and we'll move it to questions from the Plan Commission. And we'll, if our reps can't answer, if somebody wants to come up here, plenty of room. Are there any questions from anybody right now? Plan? Mr. City Attorney, you want to turn his button on?
This property is in the Franklin Industrial Park, correct?
It's outside of the area that is regulated by the Plan Development Legacy Districts, but it's next to the industrial park area.
That's my point. It's not in the business park.
Correct.
It's not CDA.
No.
Thank you.
Good. I have no further questions. If anybody, is there a motion you could read?
I make, oh.
Well,
yeah,
she's
go
got to
ahead.
read it. He's got to read it. Luke.
Yep. A motion to recommend approval of a resolution imposing conditions and restrictions for the approval of a conditional use for a light industry use upon property located at 9800 South 60th Street, tax key number 899-999-0022.
I make a motion to approve.
We have a first. Is there a second?
Second.
First and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you and welcome. Moving on to D as in David, citizen comment period. This is for any comment on letters E1 through 5. Anybody wishing to speak on anything in letters E1 through 5, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please. And ma'am, since you're the first one, you got to give it the test. See? Oh, good. Thank you.
It's working?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Bev Arrowwood. I live at 7601 South 31st Street with my family. We have lived in Franklin over 30 years. I am commenting on number 5 on the agenda. When our neighbor, who owned most of the property that's in consideration in this development, when she passed away last year, my family and neighbors expected the property would likely be developed into a subdivision, and we hoped it would be respected, or it would respect the quality and nature of our neighborhood. We never expected a proposal of this magnitude that includes 165 rental units. People want affordable homes of their own, not more luxury-priced rentals. If you look at the Statesman Apartments, which are just directly north, maybe less than an eighth of a mile, if you drive past there in the evening, you will see many dark apartments. Those are vacancies. If those apartments can't even be filled as rentals, why would we expect rental homes to be filled? People move to the suburbs to have their own home and their own private yards and their own private spaces, not communal spaces. We're also very concerned about the destruction of the ecosystem, the effect on the deer herds, the bird population, pollinators, flocks of turkeys, and all the wildlife that rely on the trees and vegetation for food and shelter. When our friends and family come to visit, they're in awe of the wildlife they see pass through our yard. Where will these animals go? How many will die because of habitat loss? Meteorologists are predicting heavier rains and more frequent thunderstorms to come. Where is the runoff going to go when this lush green space is replaced with acres and acres of concrete? If 165 rental units are squeezed onto 24 acres, I can't imagine there'll be much room left for trees or lawns that could sufficiently absorb stormwater runoff and prevent flooding. I recall years ago, MMSD approached these same neighbors about purchasing some of their property. That tells me MMSD had very good reasons for protecting this land from mass development. Then there's the traffic hazards. 165 units means there'll likely be 200 to 300 more vehicles utilizing 31st Street on a daily basis. There is a limited amount of sidewalks on our street, so anyone walking, running, pushing strollers, walking their dogs eventually find themselves walking in the street. This is a huge safety concern. Franklin's motto is quality of life. That includes living in a quiet and safe neighborhood and the opportunity to live in harmony with nature. This proposed development offers none of that.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on any of these items, 1 through 5?
My name is Colleen Abel. I live at 3027 West Minnesota, and I would like to speak on number 5 also. I also am very concerned about having the additional housing that's there with the increased traffic on 31st. You also have whatever's going to be going in Northwestern Mutual after they're finished. You have Costco right there. So that's a huge traffic input because people are trying to avoid those lights on 27th and they're going down 31st all the time. It's regularly a drag strip. You can, if you drive down the street, maybe not now because it's been winter, but in the summer you can see the black tire marks because they've been burning out constantly down there. It'll just get worse with the amount of traffic. Trying to cross the street at certain times of the day, you can't cross 31st when you're walking on Minnesota. And there are no sidewalks from Northwestern Mutual south to Drexel. There are no sidewalks there. So the amount of traffic that's going to increase, that's all going to be funneled off onto 31st with these other businesses that are already there going off of 31st will be crazy. And there is another property that at least then there's another property up for sale there that could be routed off to Drexel at least, because that property wraps around the back over to from 31st back over to Drexel, and then they could be routed out that way. But there's just such a huge amount of traffic going back and forth already. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak at this time? Seeing no one else? Closed citizen comment period. Moving on to E as Edward number 1, Mr. Fuchs. This is Bear Development Site Plan. Request for approval of a resolution approving a site plan for the development of a multi-family condominium project upon property located at 11590 West Meadowview Drive, tax key number 891108100. Good evening, sir, and welcome.
Hi. So this project's actually been in front of the Plan Commission a couple times at least. So it's been going on for a while. It was actually submitted under the previous version of the UDO. But this is the site plan for the Bear Development Condominium Project on Meadowview Drive. The city has already approved a comprehensive master plan amendment, rezoning, certified survey map, and then also a special use and a condominium plat. And the BZBA approved a variance for a rear yard setback for 2 of the buildings. So now the applicant's coming forward with more detailed plans for their site plan approval, and they've also included the architectural plans for the buildings. So there's 36 units within 18 duplex buildings. Staff is recommending approval, subject to several conditions. One is they still need to dedicate the right-of-way for the public street. There's conditions regarding increasing the quantity of landscaping to UDO standards. And with that, increased plantings, a condition to plant additional plants of evergreens along between the parking lot or the future parking lot that's shown on the map on the north side and the condos. There's also a condition for the conservation easement. There's some woodland on the property on the west, along the west side. There's a condition for staff approval of a lighting plan. And then there's just some suggestions in the staff report as far as the building variation. We just suggested that
there'd be either variation or some side entry garages for the units, or some of the buildings at least. And then consideration of extending the drive through the site up to Ryan Road. But with that, we are recommending approval.
Two quick things before I turn over to plan. So I see the representatives from Bear here. Are they okay with the demands that were, are they,
They would like to speak, I imagine.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dan, why don't we get you a spot up here, please? You've been here numerous times. There's a chair, we'll get you a spot. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. You can have a beverage, sure. You got your beverage.
Oh.
So, Dan, if you just want to state your name and business address for the record, please.
Sure. Dan Shop, Air Real Estate Group, 4011 80th Street, Kenosha, Wisconsin. So we've reviewed the resolution, the proposed resolution before the Plan Commission. We're fine with all the conditions. Just had one clarification. Our building is approximately 31 feet 7 inches tall. Under the current UDO, the max height is 35 feet. So we'd ask for relief on the building height, if that's possible. Or if Plan Commission directs us to go to BZA, we'd be happy to do that as well. But the rest of the conditions we're fine with.
Mr. Fuchs, what are your thoughts on that?
I believe that would require approval of a variance.
Okay. Well, why don't we check on that if it's got to if it's got to go to BZBA or not. I don't know.
We'd be fine with going to the zoning board.
Okay. All right. Why don't we check on that zoning board thing? And just for for the record, Commissioner Leone is here at 6:15. And just, I know last time I put it out there, but I want to make sure there was a question. I don't know why there's a question again, but every one of these units has a garage.
Correct.
Okay, so everyone's got a garage. Good, all right. Other questions from the commissioners? Mr. Salus?
When do you think this project going to start?
So while this is the last step in the entitlement process, we still have to submit final engineering. I'd say we're about 70% there. Still has to go through staff engineering review, but we'd hope to start this summer.
And I'm assuming utilities available on, to
Correct.
serve the site.
Correct. Sanitary and water is in Meadowview, directly in front of the site.
Yeah. Thanks.
So then what type of motion would you want to have tonight, given the fact that there's still a question about going to a zoning?
I guess my thought would be condition number 12 could potentially be amended to include wording to, meet the height requirement or obtain a variance from the Board of Zoning and Building Appeals.
So if you're good with that, if you want to read your kind of motion plus the amended part, and then we'll.
The motion to approve a resolution approving a site plan for the development of a multifamily condominium project upon property located at 11590 West Meadowview Drive, subject to amending condition number 12 to include language that a variance may be obtained from the Board of Zoning and Building Appeals to exceed the UDO height requirement
Or meet the building.
or meet the building height.
Is there a motion for that?
I make a motion to approve.
First and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain just because I missed the presentation.
Sure. Mr. Haley?
Thank you. Where are we at with extending the street on through to Ryan Road? That's being recommended by staff instead of a cul-de-sac.
Sure. So this development did have a traffic impact analysis done in 2019. It was approved by the DOT. And at that time, it was recommended that entrance on Ryan Road be a commercial driveway, because the improvements needed for that intersection would overlap with the intersection improvements on 36 It's only about 350 feet, so by the time, what, the spacing wasn't there to have public street access.
But currently, we're not requiring that. It was
No, I
a
don't- I don't-
recommendation,
Suggestion.
suggestion.
Yep, so that is not in the resolution or being required.
I just wanted to be clear on that. So it's what we see.
Correct.
Okay, in all this chaos, let's do a roll call because it was, I said, all in favor, aye, and then we had abstention, then we had Kevin chiming in, and I don't even know what David is, so.
Before the roll call, can I just get a point of clarification since we're talking about zoning board? Will this be on the April zoning board agenda? Or based on some of the work, will it be later?
We'd look to, schedule that if and when the applicant submits for it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for clarifying.
So Marion, if you don't mind, please doing a roll call vote on this, or Luke.
Okay. Commissioner Specht? Aye. Commissioner Sago? Aye. Commissioner Haley?
Aye.
Alderman Sluse?
Aye.
Commissioner Leon?
Abstain.
Okay, 4 ayes, no noes, 1 abstention, motion carries. Item E2.
Thank you.
Luke, DeGrave Land Combination Request to recommend approval of a land combination application for properties located at 9421 South 94th Street and 0 South 96th Street, tax key number 887-0060-000, and tax key number 887-0069-000. Luke, you're back on this one?
Yep.
Yeah, good evening. So this is a proposed land combination for 2 residential properties within the Briarwood subdivision. The lots currently share their rear yard property lines together. As you can see, they're circled in yellow there. Currently, parcel 1 on the east, 9421, is currently a single-family home with a detached garage, and parcel number 2 is currently vacant. The land combination is proposing to create one single lot that's 46,348 square feet, so just a little over an acre. All lots are zoned RSE, Suburban/Estate Residence District. However, the proposed lot configuration does not meet standards in the Unified Development Ordinance. Section 15-8-02C of the UDO stipulates that double frontage lots shall be prohibited except where necessary to provide separation of development from through traffic or to overcome specific disadvantages of topography and orientation as determined by the Plan Commission. So the Plan Commission may be able to override that restriction on double frontage. However, additionally, the Section 15-8-02H of the UDO stipulates that there is a lot depth to width ratio, and that lot depth to width ratio cannot exceed 2 to 1, except for the creation of outlots as approved by the zoning administrator. This is not a proposed outlot. As you can see here, after doing calculations, the proposed land combination would create a depth to width ratio of 3.47 to 1. So for that reason, simply we are recommending denial of this proposed land combination. But if the Plan Commission were to recommend approval and the Common Council therefore were to approve, draft resolution is attached to the packet.
Is the applicant here? Hi, sir. Yeah, if we
Give
could.
him a chance.
Yeah, why don't you have a seat up here, please? Just take one of that microphone there and just state your, go real close to you and just state your name and address for the record, please.
Michael DeGrave, 9421 South 94th Street, Franklin, Wisconsin.
Thank you for appearing.
Yep.
Questions from the commissioners at this point? Mr. Salus?
Just a question, since, when did you acquire the second lot? I realize one lot you have your home on it. When did you acquire the second one?
About 2 years ago.
Years ago. And for what purpose was when you purchased the lot?
Extra yard space for our family. Kids are big into sports, so we're using it for like soccer and outdoor activities.
Do you realize if you combine them into one lot that financially the land lose value? Because, right now you have a lot viable for construction, and once you do that combination, you lose that chance somehow.
Correct, but it also lowers the tax basis by doing it.
So is this like, are you willing to make this commitment for good, like this is gonna run with the land? Because, once the combination takes place, you might, the next year come and apply for a reduction in the property tax. Are you planning to do so?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
Are you planning to apply for a reduction in the property tax if that combination took place?
Yes, I'm already in communication with the assessor office.
And, like, what is the possibility, like 10 years down the road, you come back here and say, well, I actually want to split them into 2 lots? Do you
Good possibility, probably in 13 to 15 years. When my kids are grown up and we are no longer need a residential property where we're at, we would probably look to then split the parcels again and sell either individually or sell together in 2 different parcels.
The point I'd like to present that, the city invest, and the developer invest time and money to develop that into a subdivision. And, we like to see that, we like to see a home built in there because, the city go through the expenses of the snow plowing and all other services associated with it. And once if you exercise that option, you combine them, then you ask for reduction in the property tax. So somehow it's harmful to the city. Would you consider just like, since you own the 2 lots, just do whatever you want with the grass in it and, have the kids play soccer and call it a day without having this combination? You'll be paying regular property tax on it.
I guess I have a question. Do you know when that subdivision was built?
I have no idea.
Okay. I believe it was 1954 or 64. That land's been vacant since then. So I guess your claim to me seems a bit, in left field, saying that, you guys want it to be, developed, but,
Oh, he's speaking as an individual.
oh, okay.
You guys.
Or sorry.
As I'm about to speak,
Okay.
not you guys.
Sorry. So I understand what you're saying, but it's not that I've, purchased a property, tore the house down and looking to combine it. It's been a vacant lot since the subdivision's been around. There's actually other property in that subdivision that has multiple tax parcel keys that have been combined on the far north side of that subdivision. So I guess I'm not comfortable paying the additional tax dollars on it when we are going to use it just for a yard. And then, down the road, I had to pay to do an application. I have to pay to go through this process. So there is cost on my side to do that when I do want to, separate them down the line.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Mr. Leon?
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm supportive of this. I do have questions for staff, just kind of generally, what the rationale behind the 2-to-1 ratio is. But with that said, clearly we have the authority to at least recommend to council that it go to, you said 3.4 something to 1, that shows 3.6.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Yeah, it's 3.4. Sorry. That's
Okay, so that's, okay, but still, so 1.4 over, call it 50%, a little more than 50% over the current. But can you get at what the logic behind the?
Yeah, so it's this lot is a different situation in particular because there is, it is an existing buildable lot right now. With access. This was more established back in the old UDO when we have, I'm trying to remember the property, but there's a bunch of properties, I think along Forest Hill Avenue that are, about 100, 150 feet wide, and they're 1,000 feet deep. They're basically impossible to develop further to increase tax base and density in the future. So that's more the logic behind this. I do agree that this is a different situation since it could be easily dividable again down in the future. But that's the logic behind it, and we're just looking at what our recommendations based on what the code stipulates. So
Thank you, Mr. Hamill, for going into that detail. Yeah, I think it makes sense. The applicant's already mentioned that at some point in the foreseeable future, it could be divided back to, if not its current state, then something similar. And I guess a comparison I have a friend of mine who's actually in the city of Chicago, has a double lot for very similar reasons. Chicago's not big enough to have athletic fields, but a double lot to have the space for his kids to go out and do things. And it is very clear that his property and the structures on it have done nothing but to increase the value of that neighborhood in general, you know, all the houses in that neighborhood. So I think that it's not accurate to portray it as a combination would lower the value over time. It's reasonable to expect that the value would increase and the tax revenues to the city would increase along with them. So I remain supportive of it. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Speck.
A couple questions for staff.
Your mic.
Yeah.
There you go.
A couple questions for staff. With the secondary property having a driveway already in there, would there be any concern that maybe we should have that driveway removed to assure that we don't get any type of traffic pattern through there? Unfortunately, that's not with my parents' approval, but that's happened over through our yard, through their back neighbor deciding to just drive through, and that increases that access. Also, my other question would be is if any development were to happen on the house, like a pool or something where it would cross the line, is there any limitations that should be considered? Not that he can't put in a pool, but like if there's any, that hope of any of those developments in this interim period of time, that maybe the easements still need to be honored or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, the easements would need to remain. There's an easement going through the property lines right now. I'm not sure if I believe that is a We Energies easement. So they usually do allow for impacts in those easements. You just have to sign a waiver and things like that. About the building of pools and things like that, I guess I would have to look more into that. I believe there is a definition for when there is double frontage, that there is essentially no rear yard, because there's two front yards and then side yards, which, that I believe that would not allow for future accessory structures and things like that, because they're only allowed in rear yards. So once you put it there, then it's technically in a front yard. So
let me repeat back what I think I'm hearing. Technically, he has no backyard. He only has two front yards.
Yes,
That could limit what he can put in that space if he's ever
correct.
in developing it in some residential way.
Correct.
And you're okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
As for the driveway part, it looks like it's mostly in the right of way, so we would have to ask engineering staff about that.
Yeah, it's only about 8 feet in to the lot. I don't know how far the right of way is or the easement is for the city, but
Yeah, that's
it's culverted and only, like I said, it's only poured about 6 to 8 feet into the property.
Yeah, it's enough. I was looking at it on Google Earth here, and it's enough to be able to get into the property, like you should be able to if it was a developed property. Thank you.
Yep.
So, I approve it. I want to approve it. I support it. It is, and you took some of my points away, it is probably the oldest subdivision in the city that started, I believe, back in the late 50s. So nothing has happened there. You bought the property, you want to me, this should be a pretty simple decision. And whatever you do with your crystal ball 10 to 15 years from now, who knows?
Right.
That's not for us to determine or try to bind you to something. Anyway. So I'm just going to ask staff this, so we're, as far as moving forward to council, if this fails or if it makes it, however, if it does pass to go to council, when you say staff recommends denial, make sure you explain that very well as far as why. Because if the rest of the council would hear what the reasoning is and more of the history, I think a reasonable elected would decide that this would make sense moving forward.
Sure.
So that's real simple and basic. And so do you have a recommended motion at this time?
Yeah, I have the motion as recommending for approval, so we can vote it based on that. Okay. A motion to recommend approval of a resolution approving a land combination for 9421 South 94th Street and 0 South 96th Street, tax key numbers 887-006-0000 and 887-006-9000.
So moved.
We have a first. Oh, let me see if there's a second. Is there a second on this?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Mr. City Attorney?
There's a corrected.
Correct. Yeah, I did add a corrective resolution. Mr. City Attorney corrected me earlier this morning. Thank you for pointing that out and so I changed some of the resolution.
Okay, great. So we've got a first and a second. Do a roll call on this, please.
Sure. Commissioner Specht.
Aye.
Commissioner Shago.
Aye.
Commissioner Haley.
Aye.
Alderman Salus.
Aye.
Commissioner Leon.
Aye.
5 ayes, no noes. Motion carries. Next step.
Thank you, guys.
Council.
Thank you.
This is E3, Children's of Wisconsin Major Site Plan Amendment, request to approve a resolution to approving a major site plan amendment for the development of a single-story medical office building to allow for an expansion of floor area of approximately 15% upon property located at 5414 West Rawson Avenue. Tax key number is 741-9004-000. Mary Nex.
Thank you, Mayor. So this request is for a property, it's the last lot in the Sendix development across from the quarry on Rawson. The applicant received approval of a site plan for their structure and also the architecture, et cetera, for this development on September 4th, 2025. However, after receiving that approval, they have since revised the overall footprint of the building to accommodate greater space within it. So that has affected some of the dimensions of the building itself and the location of some of the features of the site. So the approved site plan, these are sort of relatively minor, but anything over 5% floor area change requires your approval as the Plan Commission. So the approved site plan, the requested amendment, my arrows are missing.
That's why you need a pointer.
I know. I see you show me every time.
With a fresh battery.
So if you look, there was a walkway here, and the expansion is primarily happening on the north or rear facade and the east or an interior side facade. So this is moving back a little bit, and the pathway has been removed. Oh, I did make a slide about that, not to scale. So those are the changes of the footprint. The approved landscape plan, it has some changes in terms of the positioning of some of the features of landscaping on the eastern facade. And then there are some changes to the elevations. So this panel of the building is expanding. There's an additional set of windows here. And then what was approved, what is new, an additional set of windows and some new doors. So staff is recommending approval, and we're happy to answer any questions about this. The draft resolution also includes the site has some accommodations to allow for an increase over the maximum allowable parking quantity, and that allowance would remain in place.
Great. Is there a representative here?
No, he's not. He called me. He's out of state.
Okay, Mr. Leon?
Thank you, Mayor. Question to staff, two questions really. First one, neighboring items have had concerns from the neighbors to the north in the past. Different projects, I'm thinking specifically about the car wash. And then there's also the neighbors to the west, which I believe is storage. Understanding this is a different type of project, there's going to be a building there, which I think would alleviate many of the concerns for the neighbors to the north. Have there been any comments received from neighbors with concerns about the project? And if so, were they able to be addressed?
We haven't received any questions or feedback about this new proposal. The primary concerns that folks expressed previously were related to light and noise
Yeah.
from the car wash.
Right.
This development has a landscape buffer. It's not required because the zoning is the same, but they did put in some landscaping along their rear property line. And then immediately to the north is the shared stormwater facility. So there is a bit of distance between, but also the hours of operation for this are not their standard business.
So I think it's fair to assess then that this would actually improve whatever concerns neighbors might have had before because of the screening. Not perfectly, but the screening would help out. The next question is, and this is probably more for engineering, but I'm in that area frequently. Traffic on, for lack of a better description, the driveways. Can you go to the other? Yeah, right there. That shared access that goes behind Walgreens, in front of Sendik's and then Bank. Traffic doesn't move particularly well. Were there any concerns from engineering staff about how increased traffic, especially at peak times, could impact any flow, not only on that, I think driveway is the right term, but Rawson Avenue?
No, we didn't receive any comments about that.
Okay. I'm supportive. I just wanted to make sure that those two concerns were not issues. Sounds like they're not, so thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Suggested motion, please.
A motion to approve a resolution approving a major site plan amendment for the development of a single-story medical office building to allow for an expansion of floor area of approximately 15% upon property located at 5414 West Rawson Avenue, tax key number 741900400.
So moved.
I second.
First and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you very much. Number 4, Modine Manufacturing Major Site Plan Amendment. Request to approve a resolution to approving a major site plan amendment to allow for the installation of screened trash compactors and additional car parking spaces upon property located at 3303 West Oakwood Road. Tax key number 951994002. Ms. X.
Thank you, Mayor. This is also a site plan amendment for an existing structure. Any change to parking requires Plan Commission approval, which is why it's before you today. So the applicant is proposing to alter, the site was developed with entirely truck parking at the rear of the lot, and they're proposing to flip this to be passenger parking. So they also propose to install 2 trash compactors. So the applicants are actually, the building as it's been built out interior, there's quite a lot of staff there that are needing to use these passenger parking spaces. So the surrounding properties are commercial zoning and the PDD. This is located in PDD 39 in the business portion of that development district. And so they're not proposing any change to impervious surface. There was a minor change to impervious surface, which was approved by a minor site plan amendment in the fall, where they added a little bit of additional paving here, but it doesn't affect their overall site intensity. So the screening for the proposed trash compactors is intended to be 8 feet high. So this is a view of what that would look like. That does require Plan Commission approval since it's over the standard 6 feet height. And then the applicant had previously obtained a modification of the South 27th Street design overlay with the previous approval, which limited parking spaces, and they're requesting a modification of that. So it's now been updated in the draft resolution to allow for 389 parking spaces for regular motor vehicles and 38 large truck parking spaces. Staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Questions, comments from members of the commission? Mr. Schaugle.
It says 2 compactors, but it only shows 1 in the drawing.
There's an example provided as an elevation, and then the location of the trash compactors are here and here.
Okay, and the drawing I see here shows 26 feet in total length.
I believe so, yeah.
Now, that's unusual for a trash compactor for an industrial site. Most trash compactors take up 35 to 40 feet. The width should be fine if that's only one compactor. Unless you have a description of the waste they're throwing away. Is it a wet waste at all, like a grocery store?
No, so the tenant is actually a manufacturer of like coolant systems, so it'll be industrial waste.
Okay,
So-
yeah, they used to be very involved in the auto industry, I believe. Made radiators for the auto industry, and now I think they're getting into cooling systems for the AI-powered stations like they're building. Yeah, if they probably want to put in one compactor for the recycling and one compactor for the solid waste. My experience with this type of industry is they're going to have a dry solid waste that's going to require 35 feet of equipment. So, something to take a look at, because that does impact the size of the enclosure.
Sure, and if they wanted to revise the size of the enclosure, that is something that could, as long as the fence is approved this evening, that's something that could be reviewed at the staff level, but effectively, it's considered an accessory structure in the development ordinance, so we don't, I mean, if they prefer something smaller, that is not something we would regulate.
Yeah, just some
through the
advice that they probably just pulled something off the internet and investigate what they want.
Yeah, so if they need to change it, they would need to do a minor site plan amendment.
Okay.
So yes, motion?
I make a motion to,
Request to approve a resolution to approving a major site plan amendment to allow for the installation of screened trash compactors and additional car parking spaces upon property located at 3303 West Oakwood Road, tax key number 951-9994-002.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We've got a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you. Going on to number 5. Also, Ms. X, Avenir Azora, concept review, request for feedback for a proposal for approximately 165 market rate, single-family rental units on approximately 24 acres upon properties located at 7631 South 31st Street, as well as 7705 and 7721 South 31st Street.
Thank you, Mayor. So I will note, we also have some members of the Avenir Azora team joining us remotely. So folks can see they're here joining us via Ring Central. This is going to go behind our presentation. And then we also have Attorney Randall here who represents the applicant and will do their presentation of the concept itself. I'll begin with staff's comments on the development proposal and the review that we have done. So the item before you this evening is a concept review. You are not to take any action or make any decisions this evening, as it is a concept review only. I'll canvass the required approvals, at least based on the preliminary review of the item, and then the applicant can go into greater detail about what they're proposing. So this concept review is for a multifamily development on properties located at 7631 South 31st Street. So this is the lot that the application was specifically filed against, but it encompasses a larger set of parcels along South 31st Street adjacent to the Northwestern Mutual development. So the proposed development consists of a mixture of cottage court style developments with multiple standalone homes, as opposed to what we typically see with multifamily development, which is multi-story or in some cases a townhome kind of development. So access will be off of 31st Street. There are a few different concepts that have been included in the packet based on feedback from staff and from the fire department. The applicants made some changes to their design, but both of them have the same general requirements in terms of proposals or approvals. So this is a rendering of what it would look like if you were looking at it from the southeast corner. So north is kind of off at an angle, just generally to get a sense of the overall density of the development. This rendering doesn't include the full lot depth, but it's this cottage court style and then a stormwater pond. The revised proposal has a slightly different configuration with multiple access points and a relocation of the stormwater pond with the same general density. So the property is currently zoned BMU, South 27th Street Mixed Use District and Floodplain Overlay District. So for context, all of these properties here, such as the communities of Crocus Development, the Statesman, and a large portion of the South 27th Street corridor are zoned this BMU district. That district does allow for multifamily development with approval of a conditional use. And the intention is to develop a slightly denser overall development area with connectivity and features for pedestrians, et cetera. There is an overarching South 27th Street corridor plan, which includes concepts for transit access and just generally encourages development along this corridor. And our own ordinances reflect that concept that was developed in concert with other municipalities such as Oak Creek and the city of Milwaukee. The South 27th Street Mixed Use District and an overlay of floodplain. So that is important to note. There is an area of floodplain on the rear of the parcel. I'll just take a second. So this slide is depicting natural resources. The parcels in question are here. This is an area of secondary environmental corridor, which is protected under our local development ordinance and requires compensation if it's impacted. Floodplain is a place where we would not recommend putting homes. The applicants aren't proposing that, but it is important to note. And so just briefly to canvass the required applications, they would need to do some sort of application to unite these parcels. This could be either a certified survey map, especially if there was a dedication of any feature to the city that would be required. If there are no such dedications, then the applicants could undertake what's called a land combination. You reviewed one earlier this evening. It's essentially a legislative approval as long as the zoning of the parcels is matching. Nothing further is required in terms of review. So a conditional use would be required for the multifamily development in BMU. That's a legislative approval of the proposed density. A quick hit at this site density is 234 units would theoretically be allowed in a lot of this size. The applicant's proposing 166 units. Natural resources may detract from that to an extent, but just in general, we think the site meets the ordinance requirements related to density. The applicants have a number of features related to the site that would require approval of a planned development overlay. A PDO is if the applicants are unable to meet the development ordinance or otherwise proposing something unusual. And in this case, some of this has to do with the location of buildings in terms of their orientation to the primary street and their materials. Then the Common Council, Plan Commission, and then the Common Council can choose to allow for this overlay of existing development standards. So it would go over the BMU zoning district and allow for things like having the rears of some buildings facing that major street or using more residential style of materials. And what in this zoning district, the zoning would require that they use more commercial multifamily material types. So any impacts to natural resources would require review and approval. Under the new development ordinance, that varies quite a bit what it could look like. But if there were impacts to floodplain, that would require a floodplain land use application. An NRSE if they go into the environmental corridor, but then other types of impacts, as long as they are within the requirements of the code, could be approved through a site plan or through that plan development overlay with the new development ordinance. And then of course a site plan review, which would come before you. So that site plan would have to comply with the requirements of the Unified Development Ordinance and the PDO and would be for your approval. So some other things, we would require cross-access easements between this lot and neighboring lots, conservation easements to protect the existing natural resources. And then I will note that the fire department had a particular concern about turning radii, which the applicant has prepared some information to respond to that. But because of the interior road configuration, they did express a concern about fire equipment being able to navigate these bump outs. So I note the concern about, there were a couple of different comments, especially about traffic We did not make a comment about requiring a traffic impact analysis, and there has been one recently conducted for this area related to the Costco development and another multifamily development, which is going in on 27th Street. That is something that we could consider requiring, since it is an obvious concern. I also would recommend taking an evaluation of 31st Street itself. That is a city street, and I think there are some places where changes to the street and the right-of-way itself could benefit the community overall and mitigate some of those traffic speeds, in particular, something like a pedestrian refuge, for example, near the Communities of Crocus development would be something that I would strongly recommend in order to allow folks to cross the street between there and the Statesman and get to 27th Street. What other comments were there? So, but yes, a TIA would be advisable since there are clearly concerns about that. What else? So, with regard to the destruction of natural resources, that is something that the community takes very seriously, and we do require compensation in terms of providing additional plantings, et cetera. You cannot effectively, once the site has been developed, it will be a developed site, but we do ask that at least the features of the site, the natural resources such as woodlands, wetlands, et cetera, have some level of compensation here in Franklin, so that they positively affect the overall ecosystem, even under a developed situation. And then there was a suggestion about connecting to Drexel through the vacant lot immediately to the south. I can't show it on this map. Oh, I can. Okay. So this lot is currently vacant. Unfortunately, this area here is floodplain, and it would be pretty difficult to put a road through there. So while I think there's some thought that should be given to connecting cross-access to this lot, the ultimate connection to Drexel would be prohibitive. So I'm happy to answer other questions about the zoning ordinance. Otherwise, the applicant has their own presentation, and I'm going to give them the mouse.
So, Counselor, good evening and welcome. If you don't just mind stating your name and business address for the record, please.
I don't mind, Mayor. I'm Attorney Brian Randall with Amundsen Davis Law Firm, 111 East Kilbourne Avenue in Milwaukee. And I'm pleased to be here. Marion, how do I get to our slides? Just
It's that, it's the other tab in the PowerPoint down there. So your concept review. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
that work?
Go to slideshow on the top there. And then hit from beginning. There you go.
So thank you, Mayor and members of the Plan Commission. It's a pleasure to be back here in Franklin. I'll start with my introduction because actually I think we buried our full team introduction in about 3 slides in. But on a rather gray and foggy day, we started with a blue sky picture of one of Avenir Leo's developments that already does exist here in the country. We'll give you a map shortly on where they are. Briefly, Avenir Leo, the mission is to provide thoughtful and approachable private rental residences at the intersection of value and luxury in top growing markets. And so many points of that sentence ring true for why we're here. City of Franklin is a growing market. City of Franklin is proximately located in such a great area of the southeastern Wisconsin metro corridor. And we have what we believe is a very exciting project to bring to you for a missing middle market niche. Build to rent is kind of what another term that has been used for the housing that we're talking about. Since you probably haven't heard of Avenir Azora, my client, and the Leo brand, just giving you a quick map here to show already completed projects in 3 states at the top of that list. Currently under construction, Bristol is kind of a hybrid, if you will. The first phase, that's 236 units of the types of housing that we'll be talking about tonight. The first phase, we have tenants and residents in Bristol already. And so I was there for another meeting last week. And as I drove by Highway 50, to me, it was kind of neat to see the lights on, porch lights on, windows lit up. And so there are residents in Bristol. It's a 30-minute drive, 30 miles. If you're so inclined or really curious, you can actually drive the neighborhood. You can secret shop, pretend that you're interested in moving out of Franklin and knock on the leasing office door and walk into the model unit. We'll show you the inside pictures though, so if you don't really want to pull that ruse, that's fine. Mount Pleasant is also under construction here in the state of Wisconsin. And then the bottom tier, we have current projects under contract. We are under contract. We have made an offer to purchase these properties, and we are looking to invest in Franklin as well as Madison and then several other areas. Now I get to do the full introductions. Over my shoulder, my colleague Chrissy Adderholt is here. We're from the Amundsen Davis Law Firm, as I mentioned, land use consultant. We've been really pleased to work with Advenir Azora on a number of projects. Also here in the room, Aaron Cook from Pinnacle. And we have landscape architects and full architects on our team as well. But remotely, and unfortunately, Joanne Rubio could not be here.
6:58 PM, Mr. Leone is vacated.
Temporarily, I hope. He left his stuff.
We'll see.
So Joanne may unmute and chime in if there are specific questions. She is based in Florida, and she is looking forward to coming up. We're going to have an open house meeting on March 16th, and so she's going to be present for that. I had the opportunity to give out a couple of our handout invitations, flyers to the neighbors who already spoke, and we'll be mailing those out as well. But Joanne is online, and thank you for accommodating her in that fashion. But because I'm in the room, she asked me to take the lead in the presentation. Some of these I'll go quickly because Marion's done a very nice job. You've, of course, had a full packet. We had a lot of materials in there, but the project location is just west of the Northwestern Mutual campus and just north of Drexel. This slide has a lot of words on it, but I want to just highlight a few things. The key components here, 166 market rate units. I'll pause right there. Market rate. We're not looking to be a subsidized housing. We're not going to be anything that requires assistance of that kind or provide rental assistance. It's a market rate. And you'll see in our imagery and the pictures of what's already in Bristol, they're very nice units. And they are individual housing units or duplexes. So it gives people the space they might be seeking, whether that's a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or even 3-bedroom unit, which we will have here in Franklin. The density, 7 dwelling units per acre. As Marion X mentioned, the site at
7 PM, Mr. Leone is returning.
the site at 24.19 acres could have, if you just did simple math, 234 acres. And so I certainly heard one of the questions and concerns what the neighbors had about density, but we're well under. We have 68 fewer units that we could have. And of course, we want to stay out of that natural area. So we were already reducing our number of units. But the 7 units per acre is a density that we really think creates a new neighborhood and will be a very successful new development. There's the missing middle word down in the middle there, that variety of missing middle unit housing types, duplexes and cottages. The key for our neighborhood, and that's why I'm glad Marion didn't really focus on that white building overview picture, because that looks like it's all the same. We really will have a variety of units. We really will have different images of what the streetscape will look like. And so the housing types in a mix is what will be appealing to the missing middle. We also will have an interconnected streetscape and sidewalk roadway. We're trying to create a neighborhood. Later in the presentation, there's a TND, traditional neighborhood development. That's the grid, that's the layout we're trying to create in this pocket here of 24 acres on 31st Street. And we can always go back if there's something that either I didn't emphasize or you do have a question about. Our schedule overall, the top, Marion, I'm not going to repeat that. It kind of reflects, we know we have a number of required applications that we'll bring forward. My advice to Joanne was, well, we should start with concept review and we should start with the open house with the neighbors. So we're doing all of that, but the keys will be to fill out these applications, to combine the land, to make sure we address the conditional use that's needed for multifamily housing in this zoning district, and to address with the PDO the unique site situations and development design that we will have to do. And we will be monitoring the natural resources. We've already done a tree survey. If you've driven by, you might have seen the tags or the ribbons on the trees. So we're doing all those due diligence steps that are important to make sure our development can be workable with the city codes and regulations. Next steps, we are going to host, our very next step is having that open house. In fact, I met with Alderman Hassad this morning and made sure he was available to attend that, gave him a briefing on the project. And so we're trying to do outreach first and a lot of our homework and follow-up steps next. We are also going to present concept to the Common Council. And then we, of course, have to submit applications. Long-term, we'd like to be under construction this year. This is not the type of project where we need time to make it all work. Advenir Azora is in a growth mode. They're interested in investing in the city and ultimately by final occupancy in 2028, having 166 new housing units here in the city. This image really shows the intent here is to give you our real-life projects. These are Cartersville, Georgia, and Greer, South Carolina. But the emphasis would be the community gathering space. We'll show you where that is on our site plan momentarily, as well as I talked about creating that neighborhood grid and kind of how everything lays out and works together in a little pocket neighborhood. So we try to keep things simple, have sidewalks, have street trees, make things connective, but also give people their little space of their paradise, even if at this stage in their life, they can only rent and afford that, or they want to only rent. We have empty nesters, we have young professionals, a variety of people who are the tenants. Compatibility with Franklin planning. I'll kind of gloss over the words on this, but really emphasize in your packet, we had cut sheets of all of these types of units. And this is where I was trying to emphasize, they won't be a row of everything looking the same. These will be interspersed throughout, whether it's a duplex, a stacked duplex, a cottage with garage, or a townhouse. Those will all be interspersed, and in our packet, if you looked at one of the site plans with all the different colors, each of those colors associated with one of the unit types, not the color of the unit, but the unit type. On the left just talks about how we, as we've reviewed the city codes and plans, believe that it's compatible with the city plans, and I think even the staff report identified several areas where we are compatible. And there's that TND in the bottom bullet point. The traditional neighborhood development style is what we're trying to do here. We want to have sidewalks on our site. We want to have the community connectivity and serve the missing middle housing. This slide shows, I think, two things. Number one, on the imagery, if you look at the left, that was what you may have seen in your packet. That was our first concept review element, and I guess this will work. We only had one access point, and so we certainly took city staff feedback, and these were very rigid lines. It was really just a base plan to start to show. Over here, you can see that the 217 site plan, we have our second access point. We're still working on where the connectivity maybe for cross access would be. But the whole purpose of this evening certainly is to take some of your feedback. And as we continue to make sure the site plan is refined and it'll work with our site and the community constraints, we wanted to just show that it's not our way and that's the only way. We want to make sure we're responsive to some of that. And most importantly, as we put up here, we're staying away from the natural area. The Root River, we view as an amenity. We look at that as an area that is going to continue to be very quiet, that people can, with our paths and other things back there, can just go and have a quiet moment and just enjoy the nature. And I heard that from some of the speakers, that nature is there, the animals are there. The Root River area is something that we are going to be able to stay out of. And those cross-access, we don't have this quite yet, but we know by future concept reviews and everything, we should really show that. That was a staff comment in our back and forth, and the engineers are working on how that might work, and being mindful, though, of other restrictions and sites that would have natural resources that can't have roads punched through or things like that. A real brief word on this one. I don't think we've sent this directly to the fire department, but we did see their comment about concerns with truck turning movements. So sometimes on these engineering plans, you really have to blow them up. But what this shows is a 40-foot pumper, a pumper fire truck. And then the lines here, the engineers are showing that as designed, where we would have curbs and the width of the private roadways and driveways, that, what happened here, that the truck can make the turn without jumping a curb or hitting a building. And so the key parts of this exhibit are the four corners. Obviously, they can have straight shots up and down, but we're working with the fire department. And frankly, I don't think they would want to bring a unit to Bristol, but they could coordinate with Bristol or have just a service vehicle down there to see how our Bristol site or Mount Pleasant, as it starts to be developed, lays out. But at least for a graphic depiction, we're having our engineers make sure that the design can accommodate the city's typical fire truck of a 40-foot pumper. So I've said this a couple of times, but really when I present conceptually, sometimes it's stuff on a paper and I'm trying to describe it for you, but we have the luxury and the opportunity that 30 miles away is Bristol. If you don't know where Bristol is, there's the graphic. It's just west of Kenosha. It's right on I-94. And Adveneer has the Leo at Bristol there already. This is a grab from their website. I use this for a couple of reasons. First off, to show how Adveneer tries to integrate or be a part of the community. So, and first off, let me just start with what they are. Neighborhood houses for rent. We're trying to explain to even our desired customer what the product is. It's a house. It's your own area in a neighborhood. But also, they try to integrate points of interest in the host communities. There are some shopping, local parks, fine dining highlighted on our own website to really make that an integrated and back and forth seamless connection. The map here, if you're not familiar with Bristol, this star is where that site is. Here's Highway 50 going east-west. Here's I-94. The best landmark I could maybe give you is the Brat stop. That's right on that corridor right there. So rather than telling you, I think Jesse's been to the Brat stop.
No,
No?
Renaissance Fair.
The Bristol Renaissance Fair, of course.
He's one of the actors. He's the angry ogre.
I
The
didn't,
knight in shining armor.
I didn't think those pictures were public. So rather than maps, let's talk about Bristol, although I do have to start with one more rendering. So we're in the middle of winter. I guess we still have to call it winter. And as I mentioned, Bristol has residents, but it also is still under construction. So this is our amenity space that is the rendering that was approved for Bristol. And let me just kind of share with you because it's representative of what we're going to do 30 miles north here in Franklin. But the sites will always have a leasing office and a clubhouse, and I'll show you some pictures of the inside of that. So that flanks one of the sides. In Bristol, we have the fitness center on the south side, and then this, it's more than a utility building. It's where there's bike storage and a bathroom because the people who might be from the other side of our neighborhood who are going to come use this space might need to have access to the bathroom. So that's what these three buildings are. But all of these, as programmed and to be constructed and ultimately installed for Bristol, include a fire pit, some grilling stations, picnic table you can see, seating arrangements for just gathering and conversation, book reading. This, I think, is, that's the bags. I thought it was bocce ball, but I think it's really going to be bags. And so a real nice space for gathering of community and having amenities for what tenants and residents are looking for today. Yoga, I think, was one of the other things could be programmed in this kind of space. And of course, when the sun is shining, it's really hot. To have some shade is always nice. So this is the reception office for the leasing office reception area. If you walk there today, it might not be as totally clean and pristine like it is, but that was the stage picture. This exists. This is a real photo. This is Bristol's lounge area in the clubhouse leasing office, as I mentioned. Another view of the lounge area. These are starting to show you the types of finishes and amenities that Adveneer Zora brings in the Leo product. It's very attractive and contemporary design. They try to do some local flares or just things that are unique. This is the fitness center. In a way, it's like all fitness centers you'd expect, but there might be some that aren't so glorious. So this one has a lot of unique and state-of-the-art equipment. And if I was there, I'd have to be motivated to try and get in there more. I know that, but maybe the TVs and the things I could do on the side would get me in there. This picture, I pressed Joanne. We didn't have a good picture of the actual unit in Bristol given the winter and some of the snow, but this is a unit that does exist in Bristol. This is just from one of the South Carolina sites. So to just give you the sense for the scale, the landscaping, what the finished product starts to look like on the unit exterior. And I talked a little bit about the differences. You can see different colors next door, and that's a different unit type. Here's a lower scale unit, more of the cottage style. Also indicative and representative of what would be here in Franklin. These are back to Bristol. These are interior shots of the living units. Kind of an open concept, very bright and airy. This is staged and furnished, but the residents will have their own furniture. But this is at least how it could look with truly building it out in the dining area. Kitchen stools, and then nice bedroom finishings with attached bathrooms. So I went kind of fast. We're happy to go back. I'll pause and see if Joanne has anything that I missed. But really, the purpose, as we understand it tonight, thank you for your time. Thank you for those who did come out to hear this, and we will hope to see them at our open house. But we're happy to answer questions, and we do want feedback as far as the purpose of concept review.
And I think you're about to get some feedback. Mr. Leone, Alderman Salus.
I'll defer to the Alder.
Just a question regarding garages. All these units has attached garages or no?
No, they do not all have attached garages. It's about 70% will have attached garages. There will be parking for all of the units, but not all of them will have attached garages. And if I may, the reason for that is because we find that not all of our residents are looking for that. Either they're sharing a vehicle and they don't need garage space, or they don't value the need to pay for the extra rent and they're okay with the surface space, or they don't have a car. They might be using mass transit or ride shares and things like that.
So basically, is there like, I would say one whether garage or parking spot per unit, like you're proposing here 165 units. Do we have like 165 parking spot, a combination between garages and parking spots?
Joanne, are you able to unmute? I believe the answer to that is yes. In fact, we have more than that, but I wanted to defer in case. Do I have to unmute her?
She should be unmuted, but if you want to give me the mouse,
I'm unmuted now. I had to unmute myself. I'm sorry.
We can hear you fine.
Can
Or
y'all
speak
hear
up
me?
a little bit, Joanne.
Okay, good. I was talking to myself. Yes, so we do have more than 166 parking spaces, combined surface and garage spaces. So there will be more than plenty.
Like how many more? Because, there is residents and we in this country, sometimes one individuals have sometimes more than one car. So it just.
Correct. If you give me a second, I can get that answer for you.
I was going to say, Joanne, 353. Aaron, I'm looking at your plan.
That's the plan that I was getting ready to pull up.
We do have in your packet a site plan. It's sheet 2 of 8. And of course, on 8.5 by 11, it's really small. But I believe we have 353 total stalls on the site. And that plan does break it out.
Yeah,
So if we can toggle even to the plan, if the commissioner would like, we can find that.
And I think that's almost like 2 per unit. That seems to be okay. And so I'm assuming that all these units, do we have basements here or no?
No basement.
That's it, just like a surface and slab. Can you do you have an idea, or she might have, that, like the mix, the bedroom mix, like 1, 2, 3 bedrooms, like how many units of each?
Joanne, do you want to take that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I will. So primarily we focus on the 2-bedroom units. So it would mostly be around anywhere between 40 to 60% 2 bedrooms, 10 to 15% 1 bedrooms, with the remaining 3 bedrooms. The one thing that we actually started implementing in Bristol, and unfortunately, we actually started doing this or found that we can do this in the middle of construction, was that one of our 3 bedrooms actually had enough attic space where the attic can actually be converted into a usable 4th bedroom if fully built out. So in our Bristol property, as well as our Mount Pleasant site, we have implemented that 4th bedroom. So there's a mix between the 3 and the 4s. And that's something that we would potentially look to do here as well.
Okay.
And just for reference, in our packet with kind of the green backgrounds, there was a sheet called Unit Mix. This is from December, but it still has 166. So we're always kind of refining. But for example, lawyer doing math, the one-bedrooms, the three types of buildings we would have, there are 16 one-bedroom units. So like Joanne was saying, then we have a category of 2 bedrooms, and then the 3 bedrooms, as initially conceptually, 24, 34, and 22, sounds like 70, some or 80 are 3-bedroom units, almost half of them here in Franklin I'm sorry, 2 of those are 3, so 34 and 22. So 50 some are 3-bedroom units and a lot. But that's what when I mentioned the multicolor representation, that's where they're interspersed. And then it gives you kind of that unit breakdown, as well as parking is on that sheet as well. And it looks like our site plan that I just referenced, we've been able to find more parking, because on this concept from December, it's only 216. So the engineers are doing a job of making sure we have enough parking.
And my next question, with this development, would there be like an ample space for gathering space for people? Because this is extremely important in a project like this. I'm very sure you planned for that. I also wondering if there'll be like a playground for the children. Like you mentioned, there is like a gym in there, but like I'm just wondering, because I'm just the reason I'm asking this question, trying to figure out how many childrens will be, when this fully occupied.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not something that's shown on the site plan, because the site plan is obviously conceptual, but it is something that when we go to submit our conditional use and the PDO, it'll be shown in the landscape plan. There will be the code compliant landscape plan will show the gathering spaces, as well as any spaces that we designate for a dog park, for a play park. Going back to our Bristol development, because the question about school-age children did come up there. The state of Wisconsin doesn't necessarily have what I have here in Florida or in other states that I'm working in, what they're calling the school concurrency, that gives a ratio to the number of units that allows you to estimate how many school-age children you have. So for Bristol, what I did was I worked with the school administrator to use GIS data to determine how many school-age children were in surrounding traditional multifamily apartments, as well as surrounding single-family for-sale homes. And what we found using that data was that, for example, using the Springs at Kenosha, which is closer to the Brat Stop, using their enrollment data, we were able to then use a ratio to determine how many of our 230 units would have in terms of children, in terms of school-age children. And we found that the site would have at least 32. So the amount of school-age children that we would have compared to Bristol would be relatively less, because we do have less number of units. But what we're finding is, because of our demographics for our tenants, we're seeing that it's the starter families. So you have, smaller age children that aren't necessarily in school yet. So in terms of, for Franklin, we can potentially provide the same type of data if it's readily available to the public.
And I can just add, I think the answer to your question as well, on the site, where would some of the amenities or accommodations be? Apologies that the biggest version of the site plan is that truck turning exhibit. The other one's kind of small, but I'll stick with it because it is an updated. What we have here is the likely location for the clubhouse and the leasing office. And so there could be, and likely would be, some green space, amenity space there. And this isn't a landscape plan yet, that's coming, so the color will start to be more evident. But we have east-west, kind of within the site, a wider green corridor that can have some programming, benches, walkways. And then you can also see these 2 rectangular plaza areas as well. So built into the site, even though we don't show you where maybe a bags or a grilling station or some of those amenities could be, there is space to add that, and they will be programmed in, certainly with concept, hearing that maybe there could be, given the market, maybe more kids and playground type of equipment. I think our first approach is really to amenitize for the renters and the adults. That's why you saw fire pits and grilling stations and yoga. But we certainly want to do our due diligence and recognize that what we have in mind on a plan made by next year when it's installed should be something else.
Thank
But there would be space on the plan for that.
All right, Mr. Leone.
Thank you, Mayor. First question is to you. Could you encourage the city attorney to wear his Ren Fair apparel to one of these meetings at some point? Maybe
I will,
a Dirk the Daring outfit?
Formal request for next council meeting on the 17th.
Thank you, Mayor.
It's in my heart.
In all seriousness, a couple of questions for the applicant. Actually, I think you answered one already. And a comment first. So Ms. X outlined with previous projects, Costco and Community of Crocus in particular, the comments of citizens specifically to the south, questions from them. I'm sure you've already done some outreach and will continue to, but just to allay whatever concerns that they might have about traffic flow and the movement of water. Knowing this area in particular, the floodplain's right behind. I know you have a plan. I know you're going to have to abide by several codes, but just to do that in a very open and proactive way, that should help the process move along, and I'm confident that you will. One question I had, I think you already addressed. I saw the 216 parking stalls from the December plan, so you say that's been updated too. I think greater than 2 to 1, but right around 2 to 1. As I listened to your presentation and just looking at the photos of the different properties, your analysis of the market, how ripe do you think this is for short-term rentals? I'm thinking along the lines of Airbnb, Vrbo, for those type of rentals, whether it's the AAD as a property owner or subleasing that owners do. I don't know a ton about it, how it works. To be perfectly honest, I would look for some clarity on what our ordinance states relevant to it. But I'm thinking in terms of just short term in general. But like when you have an event in Milwaukee, basketball, the NCAA tournament, there's demand for that. Do you see that? And if so, can you go into a little bit more detail about what that could mean for the property and the programming that you put around it?
Yes, and Joanne, I'll answer the question first because I think I know all the answers, but certainly chime in at the end if needed.
I was just gonna say, I was because you mentioned double. You mentioned basketball. I was gonna say I'm hoping that the Gators win again this year.
Ooh.
Keep the Florida comments quiet, Joanne.
Yeah.
It's not friendly.
Good thing there's not a vote on it tonight, right?
At least
Can't hear you
I
anymore. We
didn't
can't hear
mention the
you.
Dallas Cowboys this time, like I did with Madison right after a Packers game.
So as I said, why don't I answer the question?
Yeah, I think
first,
that'd be
Joanne?
great, sir.
Thank you. So number one, I just want to make it clear because this is maybe a new concept and just as we've used a lot of our terms, build to rent and middle market housing or missing middle. Advenir Azora will own all 166 units of the site, and Advenir Azora intends to lease them all on 12-month leases. That's in our best scenario, having occupied units and 12-month leases, and maybe people stay for more than 12 months upon years. Our model is not for short-term rentals, and it is not what our business is set up on. So I know enough to at least frame out that's what our goal is. I can't say we've never done it because Joanne may have an example where maybe in a unique circumstance there are 5 units that never leased and they could do that. But the goal and the whole point of the investment in this community is to have 166 full-time new resident occupied units for the city of Franklin. And we don't want to be cashing checks from 12 different people for 12 different months or anything like that. So it's not a short-term rental community. It's not in the control of these individual unit renters. They won't be able to sublease themselves. And all of that is going to be per a very professional and fair rental agreement, but certainly one that safeguards Adveneer for its business plan, its investment, and what the city, I think, would be expecting. Okay. Anything to add, Joanne? I think that's what he was asking, and I know that's
Yeah.
not your business model.
No, absolutely. I would just add a few more things. So one thing that is different of Adveneer Azora development is that we're part of a larger company, Adveneer Azora. So our sister company is Adveneer Azora Living, and they perform the third-party management of all of our properties. So it's all maintained in-house. So that's that part. I'll echo what Brian said. We do not have any lease terms shorter than the 12 months. I will say that there's one exception to that, and we're doing this, I know for a fact, at Mount Pleasant because we are directly adjacent to Aurora Health. So we do have a partnership with the hospital to allow some of the units, and we're working through this, but to allow for some of the units to be housing for traveling nurses. So there will be, if we make it through the process, there is a possibility for a different nurse, a different tenant, for as long as they're there working at the hospital. So that's really the only instance that would happen in. And then another safeguard that we have aside from our lease is that we use smart locks. So I don't know if you've heard the product VizPin, but VizPin and Yale, they all have locks that are specifically tied to a unit and to a tenant, and you can't give out your code because it's tied to your phone number. So, for example, if you and your partner, are both at home, you have your phone number associated with that lock with your unit. Your partner does as well. And if you have children, they do as well. Your brother is coming over. You're not home. He wants to get inside the house. He can't. You can't transfer a key to your brother to have him open the door because management has to approve that. So that's our safeguard in order to stop that VRBO, the Airbnbs and the subleases. And we find that it's worked very well for us.
Okay, thank you for the additional details, the clarity on it. It sounds like there might be some exceptions to the 12-month lease for understandable things. I just wanted to understand, because again, when I look at those units, those seem prime for what short-term renters are looking for. And I just wanted to understand, I wasn't even necessarily opposed to it. I just wanted to understand what you were thinking of the market. So thank you, I yield.
Mr. Haley.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions, and I think I maybe figured them out, but the interior streets and sidewalks, are those anticipated to be dedicated to the city, or will they be, quote, private infrastructure?
They are anticipated to be private. We don't see any public dedications that would be necessary or that we would want. So we want to create this neighborhood and privately maintain it, and that obligation would all fall on us.
Good. And you've got management on site at all times, right? I'm hearing that you've got a rental office, and I assume somebody's there that...
Yes, professionally managed. When I pulled that screenshot from the Bristol website, yeah, they had I think 7 days a week business hours to cater to that, and then maintenance and management are available to do what's needed.
And then the ownership structure, and I think you may have addressed this, but Adveneer owns this outright, all of them forever, in essence, or wherever the corporation goes. I mean, individuals can't buy them as an investment.
That is
long term, we're dealing with one corporate entity here.
Correct.
These.
Adveneer, and as Joanne kind of alluded to, it has a development entity, which of course will be developing and constructing it. It also has the living portion of the management entity, and the intent is to hold long-term and to continue to manage and own the asset. Even if that's something that we can't all predict the future, and maybe someone will deliver a truckload of cash and buy the units from them, the key is, though, it would be all units together. There is no intent and really practical ability to then subdivide these because of the way we're designing them, and our intent is manifested then in the layout. So we're not looking to have flexibility to make it condo or to have separate utilities. It will be run as one management entity, but all 166 separate units where people will have their own space.
And no opportunity to rent to own.
No opportunity to rent to own that.
Very good, thank you.
Commissioner Speck.
In my day job, I've received multiple calls from homeowners just downstream from this area with water issues. I know Sewer Pack is in the process of trying to update the floodplain mapping in this area because it's very outdated. So I am a number of years out of being in direct contact with that issue. But based on my past conversations with Sewer Pack, the floodplain is going to be increasing on the east branch of the Root River, which with as close as these buildings are to the floodplain in that area, I do have concern about what the new proposed floodplain is going to be. And what it truly actually is today does not define. So maybe something that your engineering team would want to have a sit down with Sewer Pack to see what they're anticipating with the increased flows in that area, to make sure that you're not putting your assets at risk for our inevitable increase in flood issues that we're having in this area.
Thank you for that. And while Aaron Cook is here, I think we really want the feedback. I don't know that he needs to respond, or he probably doesn't have it solved yet, but it does loop back, and Commissioner Leon also mentioned drainage and what the neighbors said. I maybe glossed over it, I don't think I said that, but we will of course have on-site stormwater management. That's different than what you were talking about, the floodplain, but we hear what the neighbors are saying, and we know what our obligation would be, which is not shoot water to adjoining properties. So to the extent that it's not that pretty looking yet, but this in our storm plan, which is sheet 6 of 8 in that civil packet, we will have on-site stormwater, and I know that we will have to be sensitive to and making sure that we are following what those floodplains are and potentially reach out to Sewer Pack. So thank you for that, but it's not something we take lightly. We want to make sure we're staying away from that as much as we can, but not have our assets in there, so thank you.
Am I yielding? Okay. So, a couple things. And I know we're in the very infancy stages of this project, but I have just, and I was really surprised that the total density could be, well, I'm hearing 224 or 234. Whichever number's right seems insane. When I saw this at 166, I couldn't believe it. And when I see this, and again, I'm only speaking as myself, one person, that's it. Where this goes, it goes. But this isn't, and you know, living in Franklin my entire life, I know the city's going to develop. Okay, it's going to naturally develop. And I've been very proud and happy with almost all the developments that are coming here, whether it's commercial Costco type retail to other higher end single family developments. That is the big draw for our city. Huge draw. And this isn't it. Now, again, it's me. I'm not speaking for anyone else. I'm not speaking for the Common Council. I'm speaking for me. So, yes, I listened to neighbors about, you know, other wildlife things, and I'm concerned about traffic. And I would absolutely want to see a traffic impact analysis, because I know the one that was done with Costco, you know, that's separate, because now that Costco one also incorporates, I believe, the Oak Creek project to the east. So now, which didn't in the beginning. There's a 110 acre project in Oak Creek that's gonna be popping up at the same time. So you've got that impacting, you know, or gonna be a contributory to that. But just conceptually, at this point, I can't get my head around it. Again, this is just, you brought it to us, so you're getting feedback. But when I look at this, the 166, when I saw that number, I couldn't believe it. And actually, it can be higher than that, just blows my mind that this can be that. But for now, I'll yield, because I do enjoy when you come here, and it's usually, you know, you're one of my top 3 favorite attorneys ever. Nice, friendly, inspirational. But yeah, this project, to me, this is one that I don't think I would support on its face, if it came down to me voting on it. So with that, I'll still open up any questions, because we are not taking any action on this tonight, so we're not receiving it or we're not placing it on file, we're just moving on. Is that correct?
Yes, no votes. I'm glad we're not taking a vote on it tonight.
All right, so there's nothing on this. Going up back to letter F, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We are adjourned at 7:39 PM. Marion, if you let me know when we're off the record.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, he's he's a freshman in college right now.
Where did he get the second? Thank you. Oh, perfect. That's right. I remember that.
Are we off, Marion?
Yeah, that would be bad if it wasn't.
Oh, yes, I'm gonna get some more.
But we've had terrible turnout the last 5 years. Yeah. Yeah. Might not be a bad idea to go beyond the first year.
Yeah.
Cost of tuition.
By the way,
I don't know how to explain it. It really frustrates me, because I was in charge of the scholarship for years. We used to get 30 and 40.
Oh, do you want a map?
momentum, yeah, it's very good.
Oh, so talented.
It was kind of scholarships for trade schools.
Yes, we encourage scholarship. We had a WCTC student last time.
Are we off yet, Marion?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, yeah, just mics are still on.
Thank you. I love it. I like it more and more.
What about if we put it on auction and I donate the money to the
I bet 50 right now. I like it. Why is that still?